This is LBC News.
A year into the war in Ukraine, millions of Ukrainian families are still in need of aid and assistance. An estimated 17.6 million people are thought to be in need of humanitarian assistance this year, including large numbers of women and children. Let's speak live on LBC News to Emma Chinievsky, the UK CEO of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Thanks for your time and good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I've outlined it, I'll touch on it there. People are in desperate need of help a year on, and no doubt will be for quite some time.
That's right. And I've just returned from being in Ukraine, where it's an extremely difficult situation for millions of Ukrainians who have been forced to flee their homes as a result of the war. About 8 million of them have crossed into neighboring countries and become refugees here in the UK and many other countries. A further 5 million Ukrainians are displaced within the country itself, so having fled from either the east or the south of the country to the western part of the country. And that's where I've just returned from, and meeting with, as you said, primarily women who are now heading households and looking after not only their children, but also often their parents, their in-laws, sometimes even their grandparents. So the need for us to continue supporting Ukraine in this war and in helping displaced people, having the humanitarian supplies that they need, and for them to be supported in rebuilding their lives.
How can we do that in practical terms for people listening right now?
Well, UNHCR is one of a number of agencies on the ground, but we are the lead in coordinating the response, and that means we are working with dozens of local organizations and community groups. And just to give you a sense of how that plays out, I mean, of course, we are still leading humanitarian convoys to parts of the country that are very difficult to reach. But where I've just returned from in Uzhhorod, there are some 200,000 Ukrainians newly arrived who are now being welcomed into the city. And that means additional school places, and it means us working with local community groups to create opportunities for counseling, for other types of support that families need. We hand out a lot of cash assistance, and that's where donations to our charity are incredibly useful, because it enables us to help those families when they've lost their homes and they arrive in a new community to be able to establish themselves, look after the family's immediate needs while they reestablish themselves and perhaps look for work and how they can support themselves.
The women that you've met, the mothers that you've met, it must be incredibly testing, stressful for them when they do have children as well, having to try and explain what is happening.
Absolutely. And I particularly remember a woman that I met called Olena, and she's a mother of 8 children, and 4 of them are foster children, which obviously is an extraordinary thing. And she was from Kharkiv, and they had a very happy life there as a family before the war started. And then a few months ago, she lost her husband in the war, and she was forced to leave Kharkiv and move across the country and arrive in Uzhhorod, where she doesn't know anyone, obviously suffering the grief and trauma of being widowed, being responsible for supporting her children who are also traumatized from their journey and the loss of their home. I met her in a cooking class, and I know that might sound trivial, but in that cooking class twice a week, Olena is with other women who have been displaced, and together they are, through that activity, able to build friendship and to, Elena spoke of feeling safe in sharing her grief and her trauma with these other women. And that is the type of programming at the community level that UNHCR is supporting across Ukraine and also in neighboring countries. And So if you would like to support us, our charity website is unrefugees.org.uk. You can also come and read lots of stories there about women like Elena who have shown so much courage and so much strength and resilience, but they need our support to carry on.
And it's important to have conversations about people that sometimes might be certainly not forgotten, but they're not in the fog of war you see across news websites and newspapers and on television screens, of course, the battles that happen on a military front. But it's what you don't see, what we're talking about now, the scars that families are having to endure and try and piece their lives back together.
That's right. And women are very much now at the center of holding Ukraine together as a country and as a society, because millions of women have suddenly become single heads of household and single parents and are supporting their children, their parents, even grandparents. I met an extraordinary, a 4-generation family where the great-grandmother Ludmila was 88 years old, had also been forced to flee from the east of the country, but the family had managed to stay together. So we met the 4 generations, down to the 7-year-old great-granddaughter, and they are being housed together, and there's a school right next to the home, so the children can be nearby. But for those communities, those host communities, to be able to provide the welcome, provide the support, and look after refugees and displaced people, the assistance of organizations, of charities like UK for Unhcr, this is how the British people can continue to support and help Ukrainians through this terrible war.
And finally, we are a year into this conflict now. You've spoken of the strength and resilience of the people you've met. I wonder, do they have hope that things will get better?
Absolutely. And of the dozens of women that I spoke with, all of them said that their hope for the future was to return home and to return to the lives and the family lives they had had previously. But the reality is that we are now entering the second year of this war, and now these families must rebuild a home in the communities where they are, and that means children being at school. It means women finding work to be able to support themselves. It means elderly people being able to access health care. And so I think obviously the hope for the future is for this brutal war to end. But in the meantime, Ukrainians need our support.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us live across the UK this afternoon. Emma Cherniavsky, the UK CEO of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees.
LBC.